But you can start. So let's say you're a solo agent and you're thinking, well, what do I need a system for? You need systems so that you know what's going on in your business and so that you can hand it off to somebody. The trouble that I'm seeing where people don't want to hire an assistant is because they don't know what that person is going to do, or their hair's on fire and they don't have time to train the person. That's usually the two things that stop people from hiring somebody. And when I say hire, I don't mean an employee. I mean a virtual assistant too. It's, well, what am I going to do? And my hair's on fire. I can't train them. So when I first started doing this, we didn't have an easy way to do videos. What I started doing was just writing it down, step one. And I'm trying to remember what the thing was. I think my business coach said, write down how to make a cup of coffee. And we all had to follow it exactly. And if everything wasn't written down, we couldn't do it. And so that's how I've always done it. Okay, whatever it is that you're doing, pretend like you're giving it to somebody who doesn't understand at all what it is, and they have to, or how to make an airplane. I think, have you ever been in a thing where they said you have to show somebody how to make a paper airplane?
Not that particularly, but something similar, like
Yeah.
the step by step thing of it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so you have to figure out how to, let's say you want to train your assistant how to send out a scope of appointment. Well, for me, it's pretty simple because I have an online scope of appointment. And I don't mean Medicare centers. I mean, I created one, got it approved, and it's a website, and they just fill it out on the website. They don't have to do any weird thing. There's no authorization code, blah, blah, blah. And so that's what we did, because we had a lot of clients who couldn't figure out the old Destination RX. They couldn't figure out how to do that scope of appointment. And so I said, you know what, I'm just going to create my own website. And but let's say you are using the Medicare Center scope of appointment, and you need to train that person. Step one, here's what you do. Step two, here's what you do. Step three, blah, blah, blah. And anything that you're doing. What else? I'm trying to think of something else that somebody would need to do. What would your agents be using an assistant for? They would be using them to probably respond to emails. Well, it depends. My assistant, my VA doesn't do anything with clients. So I'm trying to think of, because my assistant, she's not a low paid VA. She's been licensed, and she's not an LOA, but she has a license. So I'm trying to think of what I would hire, what I would train a $4 an hour assistant to do. My $4 an hour assistants help me with my website. That's what I do. And they help me write articles, and they help me do videos, and they help me do all those things. So I'm doing non-client facing things with my VA. But what types of things do you think an agent should do with their VA that they hire?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind when I think about a VA is exactly what you said. Like, because we have some VAs that are, overseas in the Philippines as well, in addition to my normal staff. And we typically, do the same thing you said. We do, like, we don't have them talk to clients. I just don't feel like that's usually in your best interest, just because, I mean, seniors in particular, they hear someone with an accent, doesn't matter how good they are. They're so used to calling a carrier, especially these big ones, and getting somebody overseas. And it's a trigger for a lot of them. So
Yeah.
we really are careful about that. But the first thing that comes to mind to me is data entry is a classic example of something that they can do that, and they'd be great for. I think behind the scenes kind of things, for us, it's, we have a very large social media presence. So one of our VAs manages our social media presence, manages our social media accounts. Like, I have not been on my LinkedIn account in 9 months, something like that. But we get messages every day. We get and probably 75% of them are just bullshit and spam. But once, probably 25% of them are people that are generally interested in contracting with us, wanting to do consulting, like doing business with us in some regard. And so my VA has been trained on responses, like we've been talking about for certain questions, directing people to people in my office for legitimate things that maybe is above what they can handle. She posts every day. She posts videos that we do. She takes clips from videos that we do and puts the clips out. And she does, she posts those on TikTok. She posts them on Instagram as Reels. She posts them on YouTube as Shorts. And so social media is a big one. If you have a desire to build on social media and build a reputation, they can be really, really valuable for that kind of stuff for sure. I think, everything you mentioned is great, helping with the website, helping with, anything that could be potentially behind the scenes that's not client facing, or not client facing, but directly involving clients, communication with them, I think is great for a VA. And people think, well, if they can't talk to my clients, I don't know if I have enough for them to do. And I think if you just took some time and made a list of everything you do in a day, like I told someone this the other day, take 2 days in a row and document every single thing you do, even the littlest things, everything. Like, I went to the bathroom this time, like everything you do. And you might be amazed at how many little things like that a VA could take off your plate.
Absolutely. Even planning a birthday party, right?
Yeah.
All kinds of things. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do. And I think I don't even know what I did without a VA, because I hired a VA right after I read The 4-Hour Work Week, whenever that first came out. What was that, 15, 20 years ago?
It's on the shelf behind me.
Yeah.
Back there somewhere.
What's the published date? Like that is an old book now.
Yeah, it's got to be 2010 or before. I don't remember.
And I was mad when I read it because I had 5 employees. And I was like, my employees better not be doing this. I am not going to hire my employees to be screwing off on a beach while they hired somebody else to do their job. Then I thought, you know what? I think I want to hire somebody. And I did. My first VA was $1 an hour. I paid my first VA $1 an hour. And that was back before, what's the big one now that Upwork? It was before Upwork, and Upwork bought this. I don't even remember the name of it, but I remember that I could get very inexpensive VAs on the other site. And just for short term, we're not talking about the hire somebody full-time site that we all use. But yeah, that my first one was $1 an hour. And now I would say I pay my current VA, she's about $600 a month, but she's full-time. And I'm happy to pay it, right? I'm happy to pay it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, it's one of those things where the ROI is infinitely more than that $600 a month and, for your business. And yeah, I think that's a great point. I think this also kind of transitions nicely into the next phase, right? The next stage, like talking about hiring, talking about I think
That's right.
I think it's a
stage
good
7.
A good transition.
Stage 7. Absolutely.
So break down stage 7 for us. What does that look like? It's hiring, but talk about like what kind of hiring?
It's hiring and managing a sales team. And this is something that I did as a financial advisor, but I am very hesitant to do in my current business. And when I first started working with Medicare, I swore I'm going to have 500 clients and that's it. 500 clients, that's all I want. I don't want any more than 500 clients. Christian, I'm at 572 now. And I know that you and I have had a conversation before where you told me that at the 600 client level, your life was, I don't want to say hell, but
I think that's accurate. It's probably a very accurate word.
But you didn't have an assistant at that time, right? It was just
I didn't have anybody. I
don't even know how you did it, because my life, I felt this last AEP was hell. And it wasn't even that bad because I had stopped taking the PDP. And Kristen, you are going to kill me, but last 2 days of AEP, I don't take new clients. I save those last 2 days of AEP. It's empty, and I keep it empty for emergency situations. Something happened with a client, I need to fix it. So I know there's people out there saying, I can't believe it. The last 2 days are the best days. I write, 400 clients on the last 2 days. I don't. I leave that space open. I know I could write more business if I didn't, but we do turn people away because I want to keep the space open. I want to make sure that if there's something that needs to be done, that I have the time to handle it. So I'm pushing back, and now I have more clients than I anticipated. So tell me why I should acquire a sales team with, remember, I pay my American assistant very good money. And I don't know what salespeople, if I were to hire a salesperson and I wanted to give them a salary, what kind of salary in end of 2023 would we be looking at?
Yeah. So before I answer that, I would say I died a little bit inside when you said you were turning people away the last couple of days.
I knew you would. I should have sent them to you.
I just died. Part of me will never come back. No, I think that is a prime example of how much and when people hear the term sales team, they think of a massive boiler room cubicle sales team, right? Like 50 to 100 employees. Doesn't have to be that, right? It could be 3 to 5, people in a sales team. And I think it would bring tremendous value. I think it goes along the lines of the conversation we were having previously about removing things from your plate, right? And, I think removing things from your plate allows you to focus on things that only you can do, like your marketing, right? Like your innovations of your systems in your office, right? Driving more clients to your organization. Imagine if you didn't have to sell it all. And maybe you want to sell. I've heard from people before, they're like, okay, I like working with the clients. I like selling. It brings me joy. I want to do that. Okay, so do 2 or 3 a month to get your fix, and have the LOAs do the rest of them. I think once you've built a good book of business like you have, it's a foundation, right? You have a foundation that you can then, but having a sales team allows you to scale what you've already done. And scaling it does not mean that you're going to have to kill yourself and work 100 hours a week. For me, right, we were talking about how crazy this AEP was. It really wasn't very crazy for me. You know what I mean? Like, I was probably less busy during AEP than I was the rest of the year because I'm not writing business anymore. Now we grew by probably, we grew, we have 3 LOAs. We probably grew by probably, I want to say around 600 new clients internally, not including,
Wow.
downline, anything like that, just through
Right.
AEP. I probably wrote about 10 of them. I barely did anything. And
Right.
10, and it was 10 more than I should have done.
Well, if you like being around people,
Sure.
I do about 100 apps a year. About. Last year I did 2023 I did 90. 2022 I did 100. This year's just started, but I think I've done the least amount of apps during AEP. I think I've done 28 new. When I say apps, I mean new clients.
Right.
When I look to see how many apps I've done, over 100. I probably did 150 applications, but those were existing clients. I like to count the new people coming in the door, right?
Right. And as do I. I'm with you there. We don't count rewrites. We just don't. Lots of people do and post them online and things like that.
I know. I
But,
see that I got 400 clients or whatever it is.
PDPs and all this other stuff.
I don't count any of that.
Yeah, neither do I. So when I say enrollments, I mean new clients, and Medicare Advantage or MedSup. That's
Right. Okay, good.
That's what
We're
we're
on the
talking
same
about.
page.
But I think for me, it's one of those things that allows you to build your business to where you are, instead of having to be on the front lines, when in sales and those kind of things, you can be in the background. The business will grow more than it ever could with you doing it by yourself, right? Because the efforts of multiple outweigh the efforts of few, and you can then move into a place where you're. Ryan Kimball used this phrase with me. I hope he doesn't mind me shouting him out. Maybe it doesn't know Ryan Kimball. He was the CEO of Agent Pipeline. Now he's the director of health for Integrity Marketing Group, and incredibly powerful person. Probably one of the most powerful people in the industry right now. He told me once that what my focus should be in my business is reviewing and approving things and trying to be as far away from direct contact with as many things as I possibly can in the business. And that's how we're really going to grow. And so I found that really insightful because I never had heard anybody else say it like that before. You should be reviewing and improving. And that's about it in terms of like client work, things like that. So I think it allows you to grow. And I think building the foundation that you've built, and you said it best earlier, is harder than building a sales team, in my opinion. So you've done the hardest part already. Building the sales team is, like you said, using your systems and processes to duplicate yourself. And they don't, and I think a lot of agents fear the sales team not being as good as them. Well, they're never going to be as good as you, but you don't need them to be. They just have to be 75% as good as you. And your systems and processes can duplicate what you already do. And, you don't have to do even 100 apps a year. You can do less policies while having to do less of that on the front lines work. Now, the question you asked about what should you pay, it's really going to vary because, and I will give you an answer, but it's going to vary depending on where you are, right? In the cost of living and where somebody might be. If I'm Andrew Lee and I'm in California, I'm probably going to have to pay a lot.
Different.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Justin Brock in Tupelo, Mississippi can pay a lot less than I can pay in Salt Lake City or, somebody in California or even Florida or anything like that. So for us, our model, and I usually don't just give this away on video, but I will. Our model has historically been for LOAs a base salary of $2,500 a month. Depending on where you are, it might have to be more. It might have to be $3,000 in some areas, $3,500 in others, depending on the cost of living, that kind of stuff. I would not have it be more than $4,000 max anywhere. I think $4,000 is the max it would be. But for me, we can typically do about $2,500, maybe $3,000 where I am. And then we pay a percentage of commission that comes in. So any commission that comes in from sales they made, we pay them a percentage of it. And we also pay the percentage of renewals. Now, people always say, that's crazy. Why would you do that? Well, usually when an LOA works with us, they're never vested. And I learned, I'll shout out who I learned this part from. I learned this from Justin Brock. I spent some time at his offices a couple years ago, and this is very similar to the system they were doing at the time. I'm not sure if they're still doing the same kind of system, but I think it's very smart. He at the time he called it golden handcuffs. So if they walk away and leave, they forfeit their renewals, and it gives them motivation to continue to work. But that also, they can make a great income by doing it. And the percentage is going to vary. I think it could be 10%, 15%, 20%. For us, we do 30 to 40%, depending on the person. So we do a bit more than probably some other people even do. I don't think it can be a penny more than 40%, because then with all the other costs you're going to incur, you're going to be drowning.
Yeah, you've got workers' comp and you've got all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't want to have to deal with.
Yeah.
I've been an employer before, and quite honestly, the reason why I didn't start this business with the expectation to have a downline and to have employees and to do all that is because I didn't want to deal with it. I just wanted to live my life. My husband is going to be 80 years old next year,
Wow.
and I'm 58, and he has some medical problems. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to, and I know Justin's in his group saying, if you guys make 200,000 a year and you don't want to get bigger, you're jerks, and why are you in my group? And I didn't say anything. I'm like, well, it's because we worked hard in the beginning, right? And I don't know
Sure.
that I want to build an empire. I've been there, done that.
I also think some context to this conversation is super important. I think if someone wants to make a very good income and they want to maintain, right? Which based on our conversations, that's what I gather from what kind of you want.
Well,
Very,
that's also why I started the directory.
right. Right.
Because that's how I'm giving my referrals to people, right? Is through the directory and blah,
I
blah, blah.
will say, I'll go against the grain a little bit on kind of what he said. I would say that's okay. It's not a bad thing, right? Like if that's what somebody wants, they can do it and make a great living. Like my father is a prime example of somebody that was like that. My
Right.
dad built his business for the first 10 to 15 years, and he really, really went for it. He built a great book of business. He had, a couple thousand clients, one employee, one assistant. And then after about 15 years, he coasted for 20. And he took on a couple referrals here and there, didn't try to grow at all. And that's okay. My dad made 300 to 500 grand a year for 30 years, or maybe not 30 years, probably about 25 years or so. And he just sat on it. When we bought his company about a year ago, he was still making like 200 grand a year. You know what I mean? Like, and so it sharply kind of, started to decline. People get old, they die, that kind of thing. The client base falls off. But he was still, so I will say there's nothing wrong with that. I will also say if that's where somebody wants to be, they probably don't even want to build a sales team, because building a sales team, in my opinion, is going to be the most beneficial. And this might go against a little bit about what we're talking about here. It depends on what you want, right? Like what is it that somebody wants?
That's right. Not everybody's going to go through all this, the end stages. They might just coast until their business dies, or they might sell it.
My father. And I don't say any of that to disrespect my father. My father was a very successful agency owner for many years, for decades. I have much respect for my father, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted
you
to
want
build
an empire. You want an empire.
I'm sick in the head, so I can't enjoy anything. So so that's my, that's me. Everybody's different. And so I think that building a sales team, in my opinion, is going to be the most valuable for people that want to build books of businesses that are 10,000 books business, 15,000 books of business, 20,000 books of business, like what Justin's built, like maybe like what a Boomer Benefits has done. It's for businesses that want to scale. And I think the worst thing that somebody can do is not have awareness of where they want to go, right? Because if they're on the fence of where they want to go, let's say on one side they want to coast, they want to build a book, they want to build a business and maintain. On the other side, there's ultra growth mode. I think not knowing which way to go ultimately ends up making decisions that go back and forth between the other side of the fence. And I think ultimately it can just cause more harm than anything. My dad did that for a while.
I agree. Yeah.
My dad would be like, okay, I want to grow. And he'd, start to do things to try to grow for like 2 or 3 months. He recruited agents for like a year but did like the most bare minimum working with these agents. And
so they failed, or it was hard for them to succeed.
Some of them did well, but like, he probably got to about 10 agents, and A lot of them fell off. And anybody that knows, if you want to recruit, you have to recruit a lot of people to make it work.
Because not everybody's going to do well in this business. Not everybody wants to work, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So like and like I look at that, as if someone wants to do something, if your heart's not in it and you're not going full pedal to the metal, it's probably a waste of time, ultimately. That's my personal opinion and my personal belief. I think the best thing that somebody can do is figure out what it is that they want out of their business, what they want it to look like, and then adjust accordingly. Accordingly. I think that if somebody doesn't want to build a humongous business and scale, they're miscasting themselves when they take steps that would result in scaling, if that's not what they want.
Right. It's hard though, when you get to the size, the 600, the 570, right where you were, right where, when you were thinking about selling. Okay. And right where I am, because I am literally doing no marketing. Okay. I am not, I mean, I'm on the certifiedmedicareagents.com, of course, because I have to be, because I own it, right?
Yeah. Product of the product.
Yeah, I have to, I have to, and I have to see what kind of leads are coming in so that I can make the site better. But now I'm at the size where I'm getting leads whether I want to or not. And I feel like, I mean, I'm not the one that turned the people away on the 6th and the 7th. My assistant did. So if they would have actually got a hold of me, guess what would have happened? I would have talked to them, right?
Right.
But my system is, I told my assistant, I'm not taking any brand new appointments on the 6th and the 7th. This is for emergencies only, for clients. And so she did what I told her, and she turned people away, and she said she sent them to certified Medicare agents. But when you're at a certain size, you're going to get referrals.
For sure.
If you're treating your clients well, right? You're going to get referrals. Your business is going to grow. I don't see my business. I don't see 10% of my clients dying or leaving. I just don't. So at first my goal was, I just want to maintain. I don't see it maintaining though. I see it growing, and it's growing without my consent. I mean, I like it. I like the money. Don't get me wrong. And my assistant also makes more money as we grow. And so I'm sure she's happy too. And by the way, the AEP wasn't stressful time-wise. It was stressful head-wise. There was something about this AEP that was stressful in our heads. And I think it could have been the whole drug plan situation with so many people calling. We have systems to handle that, but there was just something about the tone of voice of the clients that heightened the stress level. And I know you weren't talking to clients, but I was. And so, yeah, so this is why I'm in this thing where I'm like, should I hire an LOA?
So here's what I would do if I was you. This is exactly what I would do if I was you. Your assistant's already licensed. What you do is you move her into a more lucrative position to be an LOA. You hire a new assistant, have her train the new assistant, because she knows the job backwards and forwards. And you have her be an LOA, and that to me solves probably a majority of those challenges, in my opinion. She can help with rewrites. She can help take on referrals that maybe you don't have time for. And she knows the business probably better than a lot of agents do working with you, right? Like I would say, like, our two customer service admins that work for me in my office, both of them could be agents. Both of them know more than probably 9 out of 10 agents do. I'm confident in saying that. They're really, really knowledgeable. My first assistant out of those two, she's been with me over 4 years. Like, she knows a ton. And I tell people that all the time, and she's like, oh no, I couldn't be an agent. I don't know that much. I'm like, I think you underestimate how much I think you overestimate how much some of these agents do know. And I don't mean to take a shot at any agents, but there's a lot of agents that are new agents coming into the business. They're unexperienced. They just don't know. And so I think that would be a very natural transition for her. She probably wouldn't need to learn as much as hiring someone from scratch. I found the best thing I can do in my business is when I have somebody that's doing a good job and I need another more complicated role done, I empower and promote. And we bring somebody else in, and then they train on the previous job they were doing before. And it basically makes it to where we don't have to do that much training. We don't have to do that much learning and teaching. There's a little bit, but that person is the best person equipped to train the new person, and they know so much already. There's just a little bit of extra stuff they need to learn to take on that new role. Like, I'll give you an example. My first contracting person, lots of the agents that watch our channel probably know her because she was our contracting person for a year. She wanted to be an agent. So she was our contracting person for a year. She got licensed. We moved her into an LOA role, and she's doing fantastic. I posted in the group the other day. She hit 100 clients in less than 7 months, of being licensed. So she's doing great. So she started as agent relations and contracting. So she knew a lot about the agent world going into it, right? It wasn't like she was a brand newly licensed person. She knew a lot already, and I've found doing those kind of things has been what's worked for us the best. Is we have somebody that's done a really good job for a long time. We move them into a higher role. We promote from within. So to me, if I was Kathe, that's what I would do. I think that's a very simple solution.
You know how many times I've tried to recruit her? I would love, she's kicking and screaming the same way I'm kicking and screaming, So
she just doesn't want to sell. I think you position it as like, you're not selling, you're order taking.
I know. And it is. And I had her. So the goal this year was if I had to do any prescription drug plans, she was going to do them under her own license because I didn't want her to be an LOA because, and I may change my mind because I get a 50% marketing expense. So if I put in $1, my upline gives me 50 cents. And they told me that if I get a downline or if I hire an LOA, that's going to go down to 25%. And I'm going to be responsible for the other 25% for the downline or the LOA. And I'm like, I don't want to be responsible for if they run a $50,000 TV ad or radio ad. I don't want to be responsible for $12,500. I just don't. And that's what's holding me back that's one of the things that's holding me back on getting the LOA. So I may just not have to worry about the marketing money because I took a look at how much marketing money I got this year, and it's half of what I got last year. And it wasn't a huge amount. I mean, I'll just say it was $10,000 last year, and it looks like it's going to be $5,000 this year. So I'm not spending a ton of money on marketing, which is the number one reason why I have my upline, because they give me 50% of my marketing costs. And now I'm like, well, I'm not really marketing anymore. So maybe I need a different upline that's not going to that's not going to put those restrictions on me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
the way I look at it is, do you think if you could convince her, if you could sell her onto moving into that role, you could, everything in life is a sell, right?
Yes, it is.
If you could convince her into doing that and she moved into that role and that plan got executed, taking the marketing money out of it, do you think it would help your business make more than $5,000 extra next year?
I don't know.
That's the question.
I'm not sure, because she would basically be taking my overflow, and my systems are set up really good. During the year, I usually don't work 5 days a week. So I usually take Fridays off, and not off. I'm working on my business on Friday. So I'm doing the videos and I'm doing the podcasts and I'm doing the articles and I'm doing all that on Fridays. But this coming year, I decided that I'm actually going to take Wednesdays off. And so the only days I'll be available to meet with clients will be Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And so we'll see how that goes. And it might take me another year before, but the goal was this year for her to write business under her number, under her own, because she's licensed in California and she's licensed in Utah. And so the goal was, she's in your area. Yeah. My assistant lives in Utah. And she always, she lived in Utah when I lived in California, and she still lives in Utah when I live on the East Coast.
Small world.
Yeah. And don't even think about recruiting her because she loves me.
So here's another way to look at this, right? Let's say a true up is 600. Of course, it's more next year, but let's just use that as a round number. If that change only helped you write an additional, let's say, the organization, if it helped you write an additional 8 new to Medicare Advantage applications a year,
right,
you've matched the 5,000 in marketing money.
Right. That's
right?
true.
So it doesn't take much. That's what
I'm saying. I'm not spending a lot right now. So it doesn't take much anyway. I'll probably spend less next year too.
Yeah. I think your time being freed up, as well as, having another person that's capable of being able to take the client, write the policy. For us, like one thing I underestimated when we started working with LOAs is when there was more availability, it seemed like demand picked up.
Oh.
Right? Because think about it like this. Those clients that got turned away the last few days of AEP, those clients could have gone on to refer their brother, their sister, that person. So, and that's a compounding effect.
It is. Yeah, that's why we say that once you hit a certain number of clients, it's really hard for your business not to grow. You have to be really screwing up if you're not getting, I don't know what that number is. What do you think that number is? Is it 300? Is it 400? Like, where's the number where the mass?
I think 300-400 probably, because you're established, you're well known. Like, think about it like this. You put 300 or 400 people in a room. It's a lot of people.
It is.
It's like a small army.
That's right. It is.
That's 300 in a room.
I know, because I've spoken to 300 people and it's terrifying.
Yep.
It's a lot of people.
So that would be my thoughts and my pitch to you on, just some ideas. Of course, sounds like your assistant would have to be convinced, but I think if that could be accomplished, it might be a very natural transition without too much change going on in the business.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see if we, because the goal was to get her to write PDP plans this year, and we didn't need her to do that because our systems were so good. I probably only had 5 PDP appointments this year. And so, and the 5 is with people who either one of them I had to physically, how on Medicare Center you can do a phone application if the person doesn't have, so I had to do one of those, and which I hated because I've got carpal tunnel and you have to click like 4,000 times after you say each thing. I had somebody want me to do it 2 days ago, and I said, I will do this for you. I will do this phone application, but I want you to know it hurts me physically. And she says, it's okay, I'll do it. So I didn't have to do it. I was like, thank you. I walked her through it and everything, but yeah, I only had like 5 of them this year, which was great because our systems were so good. And to the viewer and the listener, if you're listening on a podcast, getting your system set up so that you don't have to do every little thing, especially these prescription drug plan. You can send them the quote through Medicare Center or Sunfire or whatever it is that you're using. and let them self-enroll. You can say, we've done the analysis for you. Here's what we think you should do. Click add to cart and enroll. And people will do it.
Yep.
Now you're going to have a few that are, 85, 90 years old that can't figure out the technology that you're going to have to help with, but the majority of people will do it if you tell them, we've reviewed this. And by the way, part of my system is saying you need to use our system to do this. If you call or if you go on Medicare.com, Medicare.gov, we won't be able to track it for you. And by the way, I won't get credit. I tell people, I get credit if you use this link. So did you do that this year for the clients?
Yeah, we did with some of them. We could probably do it more than we do. But yeah, I think, there's so many great tools, like that.
There really are.